And now we'll hear from the Yorba Linda Water District President, Ric Collette, to hopefully give us some real good news, and other than the fact that Yorba Linda and Villa Park apparently are the two highest users of water in the county.
In the county, that's correct. And that's based on our current water usage, and as Brett said, it's because of the type of areas that we've chosen to live in. We have large lots with a lot of landscaping and a community that looks very nice, and we enjoy that. Villa Park has a minimum half-acre lot. Yorba Linda, many of our homes have half-acre and more, as well as we have a lot of horse property that horses consume water, as well as other things to maintain those properties. So we're in a unique community, and unfortunately that wasn't taken into consideration. We did write a letter, which I believe you all received copies of, explaining our position on that. And unfortunately what we ended up getting when we sent the letter, we had a 35%, we now have a 36% diversion goal. So we were very pleased by that, and I wouldn't be surprised if that may not even change again as we go forward. Let me emphasize, we don't want to minimize this drought as a serious condition that we all need to participate in. As Brett said, it is the 6th year in a historical drought and could potentially end, but again, we can't foresee that, and we do need to take preparations for that, and that's why Governor Brown did come out with his mandate of a 25% conservation goal. So we understand that conservation is very important, and while we are the agency that's in charge of implementing and enforcing that, it's the citizens and the businesses of Yorba Linda that must make that sacrifice. And we have to do everything we can to help manage that. And that's going to be through, unfortunate, new regulations. Our board will be in the next couple of weeks looking at increasing our conservation and reducing water restrictions so that you will only be able to potentially water twice a week. The governor set down certain jurisdiction or rules that said, no grass landscaping in the center medians. Questions have come up, what about side medians, and how are we going to address that? It's going to be some major changes for us as a community in what our community looks like and how we deal with it. I've switched my water several months ago to twice a week, and I got some brown spots, and I'm used to having a nice big lush green lawn, and I liked it. But I also like the fact that we might have some water at the end of the summer that we can enjoy as well. It is going to be sacrifices we have to make. Many people, our agency has already processed over 2,000 removal of square feet of turf, which is from 200 homes plus. People are taking out their turf, putting in artificial or drought-tolerant landscaping, and that's about a 60-40 split. About 60% of them have gone to artificial turf and about 40% in drought-tolerant. And the drought-tolerant doesn't look bad. I'm actually looking at redoing my front yard, which has a large amount of grass in it, as a means of changing for a future. That does impact our agency and our business model. We get a certain amount of revenue based on water sales, and if we have to cut 36%, it's going to have a dramatic effect on our ability to operate, which means, unfortunately, those costs will be passed on to the ratepayer in some form. We want to look at changing our rate structure, but in the recent changes with the court that just came out, we're probably going to reevaluate and have to see how we address that. It's a very serious situation that we all have to be a part of and look at. I was on, inadvertently got on a conference call today with my general manager from the State Resources Board on how they calculate the measurement, the different effects in different communities, and there was one very similar to Yorba Linda that has concerns about fire management and the environment where they live. It's warmer, they have big lots, and the State Resources Board basically said, we don't care. You need to kill your landscape, because that is the biggest use of water that we have in the urban area. And that's why if you look at those guidelines for diversion, areas like Yorba Linda and Villa Park and others, it's the areas with large landscapes that they're focusing on. That's why we have a 36% goal, and others have less, as Brett alluded to. It is going to be a sacrifice that we're going to have to look at and understand. We have concerns because of, as Brett said, we live in this fire interface area, and how do we protect our properties and deal with that situation? We have asked for some guidance from the state and how we deal with it. I don't think they're going to give much. And the call, San Diego talked about their desal plant coming online, and if that amount of water could lessen their diversion goals. And they said, no, you still have to get the full diversion above and beyond what you're now going to be providing new water. Water that doesn't exist today, that they will have come online, they cannot count towards their diversion, which just didn't seem fair to me at all. They've spent a lot of money to bring that plant up, and they're not going to be able to count it as part of their diversion. So the state has taken some very draconian steps, and I think we're going to be challenged as we move forward, not only here in Yorba Linda, but throughout the entire state. Some communities a lot more than others. So,
Well, thank you for those uplifting words, Rick. We feel much better. Okay. And first we have Mr. Eddy Jackson. Mr. Jackson?
I have a presentation he's going to hand out for me.
Thank you.
Good evening. There was some discussion at the last council meeting about landscape maintenance service reductions and some confusion about what was done with the staff recommendations from 2010. So I'll be presenting a series of presentations on the matter. Staff recommendations were presented and approved at the July 6, 2010 meeting, but never implemented. Next. According to the 2010 staff report, there are 5 key reasons to reduce maintenance. Areas maintained without the proper easement at the county are considered a gift of public funds and are illegal. Some maintenance areas offer little or no public benefit. I should note that either of these first 2 items are sufficient for council to act. And of course, the current unprecedented water drought resulting in mandatory reductions is a valid reminder to revisit these recommended reductions. We also have insufficient capital reserves and limited staff resources. Next. And then, of course, the $1.5 million annual deficit. I should also note that the Landscape Committee did take up this issue and voted to stop maintaining property without legal recorded easements in August, and staff never brought the recommendation to council. Next, here's a map that outlines the staff's recommended service reductions in red from 2010. Very few of them were ever implemented. Next. Let's start in zone L2A. L2A is in a deficit. You'll notice the large green areas in the center around Rimcrest and Forest. Next. Staff recommended vacating the area circled in red. There is no easement on the properties above Rimcrest, and there is no public benefit on the property behind the home on Falcon Ridge. The city is actually maintaining around the homeowner's pool up there on the right side. Next. The slope below Fairmont also has no easement. The adjacent owners to the east have previously taken back their slopes. Again, you can see the city is maintaining up to this homeowner's pool and tennis court. Lots of water. Next. The neighborhood near Fairmont and Forest was presumably set up to be in an HOA. When one wasn't formed, the properties were placed in the district. The properties are between homes and therefore do not provide public benefit. Next. Here are some pictures of the slope behind a fence. Again, no public benefit. Next. Staff had mentioned that the property owner had previously expressed interest in planting trees here. Next. Same slope there. Next. Same neighborhood here, slopes between homes. Next. Again, no public benefit. You could see the slopes between the homes. We're maintaining this. Next. Again, no public benefit. Next. More pictures of the slope. Next. Zone L2E, also in a deficit. The city, next please. The city used to maintain north of these slopes on Cassia and Pepper. No easement, lots of water. Next. South of Manzanita, storm drain slope between homes. No easement. Next. Here we see some pictures of the slope that no one sees. In fact, city staff struggles to even get into that area to maintain it. Next. Lots of water. Next. L2G. Next. San Antonio, just north of Fairmont. Again, no easement. Well-maintained grassy area. Lots of water. Next. Fairmont and Little Canyon. Again, no easement. High cost, lots of water. Next. Fairmont and Quail. Again, no easement. Owner has previously restricted access to the public, including closing off the horse trail. Next. According to the 2010 staff report, these reductions in just 3 of 28 zones would have saved about $100,000 annually, and this is just some of the low-hanging fruit. This council needs to get ahead of this issue. It takes only one council member to put the maintenance reduction plan on the agenda, or staff could bring back the report with recommendations. I hope someone takes some responsibility on this. And I just wanted to mention, you know, we heard the doom and gloom earlier. These are some of the solutions we have right before us if we just reach out and catch them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Stoll.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Those pictures bring back a lot of good memories of things I've had to do. I walked all those slopes. So I am here tonight again because I felt there was a need to make the city aware of what's going on with the Landscape Maintenance Assessment District. Again, in 2008, it was the recession and a drought that made us take a closer look at the LMAD for the Landscape District. The Landscape District was taking money from the general fund, and the general fund was also having money reduced because of the recession. So as Public Works Director, I searched for ways to reduce the deficit and fund needed irrigation and landscape renovations by reducing operating costs. You saw the picture of all the little red pockets. Those were many areas throughout the city that were tucked away. These were areas that could be removed with little aesthetic impact, and the public wouldn't even know we were doing it. So there are also areas that we found probably should never have been put in the landscape district. I think Mr. Jackson pointed out that one neighborhood where we're between houses and behind houses. No matter what you do, those areas should not be in the landscape district. Those are not a public benefit, and we found a lot of those types of areas throughout the city. So you're looking at 35% reductions. You can look at reducing area alone can get you there, because that's what we looked at. Right after the fires, we had a lot of areas that were damaged, and we found that those were in excess of what the Orange County Fire Authority required. And rather than spend the money, that was the first thing we took to the council after that 2010 report. In order to save the money restoring them, we asked, how about we just not put those back? Some of those areas were Stonehaven, Hidden Hills Road, Lomas de Yorba, San Antonio Park, La Palma Avenue. The council reluctantly approved 2 of those, San Antonio and La Palma Avenue, and then we were abruptly told to stop. So that's why you didn't see anything happen after 2010. And even with the aftermath of the fire and the staff putting in a lot of long hours, we did keep pushing to try to get something done for the LMAD. But it just seemed it was never the right time, and the city managers kept telling us to hold off. So finally in 2013, we were allowed to take a very comprehensive plan to council. The response from the council at that time was to develop a committee and try to find a solution from scratch. Again, I've been saying this all along. I think it was just a stall tactic. So my feeling is the council didn't have the leadership ability to act for over 6 years. They chose to punt during first down. This council wants to throw a Hail Mary at second down. So you're banking on property owners voting to double their assessments, and in some cases up to $300 per year. So put that in perspective, in 2006, the arterial zone was put up for an increase of about $25 per year. It was rejected by 75% of the voters. That's $25. So think about that. You think the public will be scared to voting yes because of threats, but I think people watching this track record of the city will see that the threats are hollow. So what's this council going to do when it fails? And my feeling is it's nothing. So thousands of gallons of water are being wasted on excess landscape areas throughout the city. There are so many areas that can be removed from irrigation. We're in a serious drought. The governor needs to know, well, the governor is basically forcing your hand to do something now. So the residents of Yorba Linda would be shocked to know how much of their money is being wasted. You can see from Mr. Jackson's approach, that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm just saying, don't go status quo. Going to a vote's not going to solve the problem. You need to reduce the areas. And for people that are interested, you can go to the city's website under the Public Works tab for LMAD, or Landscape Assessment District. Look for the presentations under 2009, 2010, and 2013. And it clearly shows a path to recovery for the LMAD. So instead of strategically trying to fool the public, let's pull together and take a leadership role. You need to systematically go through the areas that were pointed out, all those little red dots on the map, and take care of it. It's going to upset some people, but I think it's something you have to do for the good of the public. So you need to act now. The governor set his water restriction mandates. So looking at this, we could have been pretty far into a plan by now if the council had acted before. So please act now and do something before the governor takes care of it for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stoll.